Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of Voices of CIVICA podcast. And today we're at Warsaw School of Economics.
And we would like to talk today about the topic that is brought up probably at every family dinner. And we would like to talk about politics, international treaties, national security, and global affairs. And for this reason, we would like to welcome our dearest guest, Mrs. Agnieszka Homańska. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming here. And Mrs. Agnieszka Homańska is the head of the cabinet of Minister of Foreign Affairs, junior researcher at the University of Warsaw, and also part of the ZRIF Foundation.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so the first question is, how does Poland position itself on the international stage today, and what values does it try to project?
I think this is a very important question for every country and for every individual to ask, okay, who am I, what am I doing? And only then can you project some goals and ideas. And if you look at population and at like how big is Poland and where it is located, you can assume that Poland is a middle state. Because of course it's not as big territorially as Canada or Sudan, but it's also not as dense in popularity in population, such as India, for example. And having said that, it's important to understand that as a middle-sized power, you have some places that you have influence over, which is your closest neighborhood, the European Union, the alliances that you are a part of. But there are some battles that you should not fight over because simply there are bigger players who are there, or there are different players who are more concerned about certain regions. So, for example, if there is something happening in Timor-Leste, of course, it should be important for us because we are a part of international community, but it doesn't mean that necessarily Poland should be the first to take a voice. However, when we are discussing something about Ukraine, for example, or something about a situation in the Baltic Sea, this is where Poland needs to be at the table, and this is where we can have real influence. And how are we doing this? We are doing this over building coalitions. We are doing this over strengthening our abilities and using possibilities that we have. So we, Poland, as many other countries, we are parts of different organizations, alliances, and so on and so forth. Currently, and we are speaking in May 2026, we are still holding a presidency of the CBSS, which is Council of the Baltic Sea States. It's an interesting, important international organization that gathers together countries from the region. Mm-hmm. And together with the previous countries that were holding presidency, meaning Estonia and Finland, we've discussed how this organization can add up to our regional security, while of course strengthening NATO, not creating any sort of like alternative to NATO, but how can this help our region, especially after Russia's withdrawal or actually like abandonment of the organization after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And being a chair, holding the presidency, is a possibility for us to set out priorities that we believe are important for Poland as a region, Poland as a country, but also for the whole region. Mm-hmm. And because we then negotiate with our partners, we can have some concrete ideas, for example, on fighting the shadow fleet or so-called clunker fleet, that is a great threat to our security and democracy here in the Baltic Sea state. But also, those things are happening in the Mediterranean Sea. Those things are happening on different seas, on different areas. And sometimes, while we are drafting here regionally something that Poland is leading, we are getting a call from Malta or from some islands on the Atlantic Ocean, asking, okay, maybe we can negotiate, because we see that you've just applied some regulations that are helpful for fighting this clunker fleet here. Maybe it can help us fighting with piracy or our clunker fleet to some extent. So to sum it up, as a middle-sized power, you have influence on over certain issues, but you can have a bigger impact when you can, with a good idea, if you can smartly build up coalitions.
Okay, thank you so much. And summing this up, maybe as for you, if you had to sum up the Polish foreign policy in 3 words, what words would you choose to describe it as?
3 words is not enough, I'd say, but it's good. First of all, it's smart. Then it's flexible, or maybe rather adaptable.
Okay.
And the last that I would use is value-based. So it has to be smart, because we are living in challenging times, and we need to look for parts that we can use to make us stronger, but also to make our partners stronger. And it connects well what I said about previously about coalitions. When it comes to adaptability, there are many accusations of how Polish, for example, how Polish foreign policy was held towards Russia in 2006, for example. Because this was a moment when Europe thought in general that Russia might become a normal European state. And this is how we in Europe believe that when we were playing a game together, and we have the same rules to this game. So we were inviting Russia. We were trying to sort out things with them, just as we did with China and WTO, believing that China will become a player such as we are. And truth to be told, we were wrong. But what we are doing right now, and what we has been doing since first 2008, then following 2014 and 2022, is that when international situation changed, we've changed our policy. Yeah. So right now we are adaptable, and we are adapting to the situation that is currently happening. But one day, for example, the war in Ukraine is going to be over, one way or the other. In connection to the value-based, our raison d'etat is Ukraine to win and Russia to lose. But we have to be ready for all the options. And then this is the moment when this flexibility or this adaptability comes in, and you have to, sit down at the table and not only then draft the scenarios of how are you going to hold your foreign policy, but then be ready with the scenarios. What do we do with Russia? What is Russia? What do we do with Ukraine? How do we help Ukraine on the European path? And coming back to values, democracy is something that is undeniable for us. And democracy means freedom of people, freedom of movement, freedom of speech. And here, for example, we have different understandings, I'd say. So, for example, you remember when J.D. Vance came to Munich 2 years ago, and he told the Europeans some things about freedom of speech, and that these democracies are trying to limit freedom of speech. It's not like that. We in Europe, for historical reasons, have some good ideas and good reasons for saying no, for banning fascistic and nationalistic words and acts. In the US, this was not seen before in this historical context. Therefore, we are not limiting their freedom of speech, but we are limiting we are securing our democracies. And these are the things that are non-negotiable to us, because if we invite somebody over, of course, you can do whatever you want. You can lay down here, you can do this, you can do that. But does it mean that if you want to take this glass and break it down, I would have to allow you because you are the guest and I'm here, allowing you for everything? I don't think this is how hospitality looks
Yeah.
like.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. And let's move to the next section. And it's actually the Poland itself. And the first question is, since President Nawrocki took office, what are the most visible shifts in Poland's foreign policy, as you think?
Here, the most important is to understand that constitutionally in Poland, it is the cabinet of the ministers and prime minister who is in charge of internal and external politics. And we have this, it's Article 138. And in another article, it said that the president is cooperating with the cabinet and with the prime minister. So actually, in our, and it's not only about President Nawrocki, it's about any other presidents that are currently being elected in Poland, is that virtually they are like monarchs, but with veto power. And their main mandate as a person who was democratically elected directly by the people is to represent the Polish people and the Polish state. But presidents are not there to, set out policies. And it's not only the problem of President Nawrocki. I would say other presidents had these problems before. And my boss, Minister Sikorski, actually in 1991, if I'm not mistaken, wrote an article that was debating the draft of the Constitution. And he created a very nice metaphor that our Constitution is like a car with two wheels. And everything goes well if both drivers want to go the same direction. The problem is when one wants to go to the right and the other one wants to go to the left. I'm not an advisor to the president, but if I were to give him an advice, I would say use the powers that are there within your constitution. Think of President Kwaśniewski, or think of the King of Sweden, or King of Denmark, or President Macron. What they are doing, for example, is they are promoting national business. Whenever they are flying somewhere out, they are taking a plane with their national businessmen. And we in Poland, believe me, we have many great startups. We have booming technological industry. President could take them on board, go to India, go to Brazil, go to Africa. We've recently been to Algeria with the minister. This is such a great place where Polish business can develop. And the president could be just like, okay, I'm here with the best of the bests. I'm giving you my word. These are the guys you ought to talk to, and then leave them free. And this is, for me, the real representational value. And what we would love to get back to is that there are certain things in foreign policy that should not be trapped within political dialogue. And one of those is security. And nobody from the right or from the left wing side of the politics should debate whether, we know that Russia is a threat. We have it outlined in our national strategy. We know, of course, that we are within this great alliance with the United States, but we are also within the EU that is making us stronger. And therefore, on national and international security, we should work hand by hand with the president. And this is something that has just happened. You remember the possible withdrawal from the troops. Leave out nasty tweets and political discussions. Everybody worked. And the real work is always done behind the closed doors. So is the president trying to reach out to his respectives? It was Minister of Foreign Affairs, it was Minister of Defense, it was the army, military guys talking in between each other. It was people in Brussels, in NATO and in EU. It were the congresswoman and congressman from both parties saying, okay, Poland is a model ally, don't do this, don't threaten them. And it worked. And right now, President Trump thanks President Nawrocki. And it's fine. I mean, this is the political path, the political surface that they want to use it. As a Polish citizen, as a person who works for the Polish government, I am satisfied that our politicians worked together in order to secure as Poland and as Europe.
Continuing on this topic about the war and our neighbors, how do you think, if the broader war was to break out, are we ready, or is Poland ready to kind of defend Europe, or do we require more support from the Europe itself?
What we for sure require is more capabilities as a defense union, because the European Union for the moment is not, in my opinion, a ready defense union, because also it's another part of the European integration. But people of Europe demand it. And look what happened. After COVID, people demanded more common actions on health issues, but health is like the sole priority or sole action for each country. But people demanded it. The same happened after the full-scale invasion. People were, okay, we demand from the European Union to act more. And this is something that is evolving because, well, every crisis gives you a possibility to evolve and to get better. So currently we are debating about this Article 42.7 about common defense capabilities and how countries, each other can help each other when there is a threat, a war situation. And don't get me wrong, strengthening European capabilities doesn't matter that we are abandoning the transatlantic ones. We'd rather call it not strategic autonomy, but strategic harmony. Because honestly, the Americans, and I think they even have it in their national documents, they are unable to have two wars on two different fronts. And they have many more interests all around the world. So imagine there is, in Libya, for example, is a very unstable state. Imagine something happens there. Libya is still within the Mediterranean area. Do we really have to call the Americans to help us? Or should we rather have our European capabilities to get it all together, okay, within NATO, within EU, like it is not contradictory. Yeah. But what we have to work more on is civil preparedness and civil defense. And there are countries to look up on. There is Finland. There are Baltic states. Countries that for good or bad historical reasons knew how to always be ready, always defend themselves. It was, of course, because of the threat of Russia, and not everybody understood that. And, many people in Europe thought, okay, the wars are over, and right now we don't have to, teach people how to react when there is some threat upcoming. But the modern warfare is changing. It's no longer only just fighting in trenches. Is a psychological warfare, is a hybrid war, AI, misuse, Internet. Propaganda. And this is the core. So it's not only about strengthening the European possibilities, but it's also about educating our citizens. And I think here also Ukraine can help us and can play a big part. Meaning that people of Ukraine can share best practices with us on how to react when there is a hybrid war, on how to differentiate the real from fake. But as I said it before, and I think it was Churchill who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. I would see this situation that we currently are living under as an opportunity, because of every obstacle, of every crisis, I like to think as of an opportunity, as of a challenge. We just need to get people on board, and we need for this good politicians who are going to be the leaders, who are going to lead us towards that. And I frankly believe, we can do it. We are democracies.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And since we're talking about Poland in the alliances and with the partners, so what do you think are the long-term political goals of both European Union and Poland, and where do they align, and maybe where they clash?
I will leave you something. This is Polish foreign policy strategy, 2025-2030. And here we have outlined our priorities. This is also, by the way, available online. But one of the things that we are stating here is about the future of the EU. And we are thinking of the EU as of three layers. Is the geopolitical union, is the union of values, and union of growth. And, there are many points to add up to that. But we have much more common goals, such as finishing the war in Ukraine and not letting Russia win this war. Union of growth, meaning we all know the reports of Draghi and Letta that Europe has been free riding on competitiveness, just as Europe has been free riding on defense for far too long. It's good that we have those wake-up calls, but it means that right now we have to strengthen our possibilities and our cooperation. And Poland being stronger doesn't mean that Italy is going to be weaker. It means that we, have to coordinate, and, if there is something that we can help each other on, that's very much fine. So I don't think, and maybe there are, but for the moment I cannot think of any goal that Polish foreign policy has towards the EU that would be contradictory to other European states. Of course, as within every families, we have some discussions. But this is also why, people are telling, oh, Brussels, it's them. It's something that we don't care about, and they don't care about us, and they are not negotiating with us. Whenever there is a position to be taken on behalf of the European Union, our people in Brussels, meaning either our MPs democratically elected by a state, or our diplomats, our civil servants, who are representing the Polish or Spanish or Italian perspective, are gathering. There are many working groups within this, and are discussing and are putting forward a Polish position to the table. It's not that, there is some Brazilian person that just comes and say, okay, this is going to be like that. It takes negotiation. This is the art of diplomacy. And look how things have been changing or are changing towards, different matters, different subjects. Look at sanctions. I mean, it's going to be the 21st, I think, sanction package. It required some negotiations. Of course, Hungary was the biggest obstacle. Back then, Slovakia was backing Hungary because they knew that they can bond together. Right now, Slovakia is more pragmatic and more pro-European. So when they lost the Orban guy, they can move forward, being more pro-European. And there were moments when I was thinking, okay, Hungary is like putting this on the table. This is a non-negotiable thing for me. For example, Hungarian minority. And then the other countries were like, okay, we didn't think about this because, of course, we care less about Hungarian minority, but we understand this issue is important for you. And they were negotiating. So this is how I think that even we are not always agreeing with each other, at the end of the day, also, you have a stronger voice when there is 26 other countries backing you. Look at the map. And here, a quick anecdote. A friend of mine, former ambassador to Indonesia, he was my professor. He told us once during one class at Warsaw University that the moment he understood that he has to change the perspective was when he entered the Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I don't remember whether it was the ministerial cabinet or just like some waiting space. And he saw a map. Just as in any other institution, there is a map. However, we in Europe, if we enter to this institution, we see a map and there is Europe in the center, right? And America, Russia. There in the center, there was this big Indonesia. And Poland was just like somewhere there around the corner. And he was like, that's the way they see world. And that's the way, wherever you go, that's the way people see the world. meaning that also Europe is pretty small. So, it's just better to act together.
Yeah, totally agree. And next question is connected more with the general countries and not only European Union, and it can be a little bit controversial, but we'd like to hear your personal take on this. So, as Poland is a big part of NATO and we have a lot of support from it, as well as a lot of countries from EU, do you think that Europe and Poland as a country could survive without this support? For example, if the war breaks out, or are we like heavily dependent on it still?
We are heavily interdependent on each other, not only on the US.
Okay.
But of course, there is this major share, and that's true that for long, the US was the bigger contributor, for example, to NATO budget.
Yeah.
But it's changing. And credit where credit is due. President Trump was very effective because since President Trump won, so since 2017, we, as European member states plus Canada, doubled our defense spending. Mm-hmm. And if it's needed, we don't want to go there. We don't need this crisis to happen. But if needed, we are going to double it again, because especially in Poland and on the eastern flank, we'd rather eat grass than become a Russia's colony again. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But meaning this and having this shift in mind, we need each other. But the Americans, they also have their issues to look on, and this is understandable. And something that some parts of Europe have to understand is that, it's just like within a relationship between two people. If I love you, and I love you very much, but you don't love me back, if I'm going to love you more and more and more, it doesn't mean that you are going to love me.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, so just giving so much wouldn't mean that we are going to get things back. But I have to be super frank with you. Knowing what I know, the commitment of America to NATO is firm.
Okay.
The Article 5 is there. Article 3, meaning consultations, is there. Of course, people have a misconception about what Article 5 is, because people sometimes think, okay, it means that there is some sort of an attack and then some sort of help, like, I don't know, what would that mean? That, like, tanks coming? It doesn't have to be like that. Also, what kind of an attack? Right now, we've already discussed about how modern warfare has changed. It doesn't have to be a kinetic attack, or maybe that has to be a kinetic attack. Remember that Article 5 has only been evoked once. It was on American call, and we as good allies joined them, and our Polish troops were fighting them hand by hand, and then they understand it. I mean, put aside political rhetorics, they understand it. So we are in this very much together.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. And talking about this giving and receiving, let's talk about the topic that is so hot today, and this is the migration. And do you think that migration will become the defining political issue in Europe within the next 20 years or maybe 10 years? And where do you think it is now?
You're right that it is going to be something that is going to define our politics. Short term, it's already challenging. Long term, within climate change and migration from Africa, this is going to be a huge challenge. But again, challenge means also an opportunity. And look at what we've done in Poland. We have one of the strictest policy on illegal migration. Illegal. Because we want the legal migration. We need legal migrants. We need people to work here because, for example, in Poland, people are getting more and more better educated, wealthier, and there are just some jobs that they don't want to take up anymore.
Yeah.
But we have other people coming in legally coming in who are qualified in this, and it creates a perfect symbiosis. And this is something that we want. What we don't want to, and what our people demand us to do, is to fight the illegal migration. And we saw the weaponization of migration on the Polish-Belarusian border. We have built this big and beautiful fence that is extremely effective. It's something not nice, I know. But believe me, It's not us who are the bad guys threatening people badly. It's the Lukashenko regime, and it's it's Russia's tentacles in countries such as Somalia, Eritrea, Pakistan. They were recruiting those people. They were telling them, they were promising them, come with us, join the boat, it's going to be a nice ride, and you will be in Europe and you are going to provide for your family. We have launched some information campaign that were, whatever, posters and videos with some unpleasant photos from the border with dogs barking. And both posters and videos were put in national languages like Pashto, Urdu, and the languages of the region, because what we wanted to do was to let those people know way before they embarked on this journey to Poland. We wanted to tell them, and that was the final message of this campaign. They are lying to you. Don't believe them. Don't come, because when you come, you're going to be deported. And here, there was a lot of controversy around the asylum system. And it's not true that you cannot seek an asylum when you are coming from Belarus. You just cannot seek an asylum directly on the border. There are some cases, like when you are weak, child, old, sick, pregnant. There is our guard deployed and that can see, and there are some individual cases where you can seek asylum. But when you are a real refugee, you know that you can go to our embassy or to our consulate in Belarus. And then if you ask for asylum, you are going to be granted. Mm-hmm. So it was only, to stop, because we have the Belarusian regime on tape instructing those migrants on how to use weapon against our soldiers. We have to protect our people as well. So regulating illegal migration is a necessity. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather have a democratic government doing it within also the rules of law and humanitarian law than the fascistic one who would come and, believe me, they would not be nice.
Yeah, true. And talking about these general trends and overall the political trends in Europe recently, as when there were European Parliament elections, there was a high rise of the far-right parties and voting for it. How do you think, what could be the factors for that? Is it because people are kind of tired of the fact that democracy is not working? Or as from your standpoint, what could be the reason for this change?
I think it's exactly because democracy is working.
Okay.
So, we've always had a goal for something. And democracy, being pro-European, pro-democratic, was something that made us being such a great country, such a great continent. And people are sometimes maybe demanding more. And I understand that. I mean, as a citizen, as a person who votes, I also demand from my political superiors acts. Yeah. But sometimes democracies are slower. They are more effective, but they are slower because they are abiding by the rules and so on and so forth. And I'm not blaming people who are voting. They have right to change ideas, and they have the right to seek out for new things. I would rather tell to those representatives of the old mainstream parties that precisely because you are an old mainstream parties, you'd have to adapt to the reality. Yeah. So don't try and be like, oh no, these guys are stupid. No, just go and talk to them. And this is something what we did actually with my boss. We went out during the presidential campaign. We were supporting, of course, Rafał Trzaskowski, who was a candidate from the party that my boss belongs to. Mm-hmm. And we went out to have a beer in a pub that belonged to one of the heads of Konfederacja, so one of the far-right parties in Poland, the libertarian one. And the majority of guys over there were just men around 30, and they were serving in sort of like police or guard or whatever. And they just felt not listened to, not heard. And the moment we started discussing with them, we actually understood that we have similar opinions on many issues, just no one challenged them, because previously it was like, okay, this old mainstream party wants this one and this one wants that one, so I'm going to seek for something else because, they are giving us those simple solutions. And for populists, it's really easy to just like shout and give out simple solutions. So I would see it as a requirement for the ones who want to preserve democracy. Get out to the people, talk to your people, listen to them, and believe me, like there is a possibility that we are going to see this going to the right movement, getting back to the center.
Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And let's talk about the future, actually.
Okay.
And so, what gives hope about Europe in the next years, and what actually can be concerning about its future?
Hope is there whenever you like. That's a very good question. When you travel, when you wake up, you can go to your local store. Shelves are full with different kinds of fresh fruit and fresh products that have limited amount of sugar, because we work together on this, that the quality of food is better. And then we travel abroad, and within Schengen area, we don't need to use our passports, because we can just on Snap decide, okay, let's go for holidays in Vienna. And we just, if we are able to, we just buy a ticket, and the next day we're flying there. And this is what is giving me hope. Seeing all the startups, all the tech companies blooming, people coming back to Europe, people coming back to Poland. For the first time since 300 years, we have a surplus of net migration. So people are coming back because they see that this is the place where you want to be, because the quality of life is just better. The pollution, we are regulating pollution, so the air is better. We are regulating food, as I said, so like addition and things to food, so food is better. But we are all doing this on the basis of we agreed on something. There is a general agreement between societies. This is something that we do, this is something that we don't. And as long as we can, sometimes you have to shift those agreements. Sometimes you have to debate about this. But as long as we can work on this, on sort of social contract, as long as we have this within democracy, this is something that gives me hope. And we just cannot, I'm being really frank, we just cannot let the autocrats win. Because for the moment we are living with, throughout the time when there is a decisive moment, who is going to be the third leg of the worldwide power structure? We have the US, we have China and Asia. Is it going to be Europe, or is it going to be Russia?
Yeah.
And by Russia, I mean, all the connections with Iran, with North Korea, with China. Think of a drone, Shahid. This is a lethal representation of this cooperation between the autocrats. This is a drone that is right now, like, it's produced. Of course, the Russians have their own version of it, but the basic one is a drone that is constructed in Iran, then supplied to Russia, and Russia uses it in order to kill civilians in Ukraine.
Yeah.
People were shocked when we were telling this to them. And then the war in the Middle East started, and those Shaheeds started flying from Iran to American allies. And people were like, oh, so, these are the connections. And this is the thing that I worry about when it comes to the future. But this is also the thing where I have hope, that if democracies cooperate better than the autocrats, we have it. Because it's just like with Russia. And Europe doesn't have to be better than the United States when it comes to security and defense and this. The US is a superhero of nations, but we just have to be stronger than Russia. That's enough.
Yeah. And so, as we're running out of time, I think it will be last question and kind of a personal one, and maybe interesting for you. So, from your practice, what was the hardest diplomatic conversation that you ever had?
I had many difficult conversations. I wouldn't say this was the hardest, but this is something that I remember the most. Because I came into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the outside. So I'm not a civil servant, I'm not a diplomat, even though I have a good background in international relations and in linguistics as well, in different fields. I was never, structured as a that way, like forward-thinking civil servant. And we had one discussion on one certain topic. I'm not going to disclose the details. And the minister laid out some priorities, and he tasked the head of different departments. And he was like, okay, so we are going towards this direction. We have this, and this. Okay, thank you. The minister left the room, and then we had a debrief. And then those heads of departments, some of them 20 years of experience, great minds. I can't say anything bad about them, except for this little thinking that they, sometimes because of their experience, they had this a little bit like tunnel vision when they were like, so the minister said we should do this, it's impossible. Oh no, we've been trying to do this for 10 years. There is no option. And I was listening to this. And they were also like saying to me, because of like this, a little bit like a political angle, Ms. Director, we would like to do this, but nobody would agree. And therefore, I was like, okay, guys, listen. You've been trying to do this for 5-10 years. I know it was difficult. But right now you have something that you lacked before, meaning the political will. And if you look at many things that are happening right now, that is true, that diplomats can negotiate. Diplomats can put forward scenarios, ideas. Also, the sole fact that you are working on a certain scenario doesn't mean that this scenario has to come into power. But it can when there is a political will. And that was the moment when I realized two things. First of all, we really need smart leaders and decision makers who also know how to cooperate with others. Because sometimes, you can have a great idea, but it should be a role of a seasoned diplomat who would be like, Minister, sorry, I don't think you're going the right direction. And it's fine.
Yeah.
But the second realization was that we really need mixed groups, because this 20 years of expertise of this director and my fresh view with a political angle helped working out this path. And you can't believe how I had like my internal satisfaction. Of course, I never said it out loud to anyone. When after half a year, we had a debrief on this exact subject. And one of those directors who previously told us, oh, this is impossible, said, oh yes, Minister, so actually we are working on this and this is going so well. And I'm really happy that you took this decision.
Yeah.
And that was a moment when I just thought to myself, this is how it really should look like.
Thank you so much. It was awesome to have you with us. And I believe that we had a really meaningful conversation today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your next chapters.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.